Why hello there friends, it's Emma here, the Bookish Princess. Today's video is all about creating a Jane Austen mood. We're stepping back into the past to the dawn of the 19th century in England. This is my list of simple and snug ways to channel some British Regency era vibes into your everyday life. Hopefully you'll enjoy this if you also love Jane Austen, if you're planning a Regency themed party, or of course if you're taking part in the Feb Regency readathon, which begins today. I'm one of the Feb Regency co-hosts, and if you're already subscribed to my channel, which you obviously should be, you'll probably have heard me mention Feb Regency a time or two. It runs throughout the entire month of February, and the goal is to explore the literature of Britain's Regency period. If you go with Wikipedia's generous definition of the Regency era, that's from about 1795 to 1837. Today's starter kit video is meant to be lighthearted and cozy rather than scholarly and super serious, but hopefully if you're participating in Feb Regency, you'll also be diving into the rich history of this time period and learning about all the different facets of the age. Without further ado, let's get started. Today's video will go beyond books, but it will be no surprise that books are the first item on the list. Without the internet and television and modern modes of communication, the people in the Regency era relied on books for both edification and entertainment. Reading aloud in the evening was a common pastime, so you could read aloud to a group, to your family, or just reading to yourself would be an excellent way to get yourself in a Regency mood. Myself and the other hosts have done a variety of videos sharing our TBRs and suggestions of great literature to check out from the era, so I definitely would encourage you to check those videos out. If you haven't yet, I'll link the whole playlist up above. But I have to put in a quick good word here for poetry. The Regency was particularly rich in its poets. The Romantic movement was taking place, and the lyricism, appreciation for nature, insight into human emotions that these poets had is second to none. An appreciation for and a familiarity with poetry is something our culture has kind of lost. When I read books from the past, I love how the protagonist can often recall a verse of poetry that fits whatever moment they're in, and I wish I knew more poetry by heart so that I could do the same. So hopefully we can reclaim some of the beautiful poetry of the past. You could open up a volume of Wordsworth, a volume of Byron. I'll leave a couple suggestions linked down in the description below. As you know, I could easily talk about books all day long, but let's move along. Dress is the next item on our Regency era starter kit list. Regency fashions were so beautiful and elegant, and that streamlined silhouette, it is so distinctive really throughout all fashion history, that empire waisted gown. I came across an excellent video about the evolution of Regency era fashion and how the waistlines migrated upwards around the time of the French Revolution. Even today, we call that style empire waist, and the empire being referred to was the Napoleonic Empire. Napoleon's wife Josephine helped to popularize this look, this style of gown, and the British definitely took their fashion cues from the French. Another internet resource that I've recently been enjoying perusing related to Regency fashion are Regency era fashion plates from old copies of Ackerman's Repository of Arts. This was an illustrated British publication put out between 1809 and 1829. Apparently the full title was Repository of Arts, Literature, Commerce, Manufactures, Fashions, and Politics. So it did have more than just beautiful gowns, but it seems like the gowns are what they're most remembered for today. You can find links to the full issue, full issues of this publication, or to just the beautiful fashion plates. I'll link them in the description, but the fashions in particular are so detailed, so beautiful. Just an inspiration to page through. You yourself do not need as elaborate a dress as in the fashion plates. If you're just looking for a light way to incorporate some Regency style into your everyday look, you could trim a summer bonnet like Lydia Bennet, or you could wear a shawl to keep you warm in the winter. The shawl is actually a significant garment in Regency era literature. Which gentleman manages to help a young lady with her shawl when she's leaving an event, and whether or not it's the right gentleman often comes up. It is a device in novels of the period. Now, I decided to go a bit further than just a hat or a shawl. I was inspired by Feb Regency to purchase my own Regency style gown. I bought it from a company called Recollections on Etsy. There were beautiful fabrics. I got to choose which fabric I wanted it made of, and it is beautifully made. The only caveat I would note if you're considering considering buying from them is make sure you send your precise measurements when you first order. When I ordered, I looked briefly at the measurements for their pre-made sizes, and I ordered an extra small because that seemed like it would be about right. But when it arrived, I just was swimming in it. It was way, way too big, way bigger than like a normal extra small would be. It felt like a large or an extra large in conventional sizing. They were very nice though when I emailed them, and they let me send the dress back, and they tailored it to my measurements without charging me. So that was great, and I am so pleased to have this gown now. After I purchased the dress, I realized that I also needed a chemisette. So this was worn to cover the neckline during the day because the necklines were fairly low cut. I ended up looking into fake collars on Amazon. There are quite a wide variety of them, and they're really beautiful. I want to wear my fake collar with more different sweatshirts and sweaters now. Now, I wish I could say I had made the dress myself. Dressmaking is something I'm interested in, but haven't experimented with yet. But a sewing kit could definitely be part of your Regency Era starter kit. Of course, all clothing was handmade at this time. Inventors were starting to figure out the sewing machine, but it was not available to the general public. So even if you just get out your needle and thread to take care of some little mending chores that you haven't gotten around to yet, that could be a fun way to channel some Regency energy into modern life. So many habits and pastimes these days have become digital, and taking some inspiration from the past to spend some quiet, screen-free time doing some tactile activities, I think can be really healthy as well as really enjoyable. You could start an embroidery project or pick up painting or sit down at the piano again. Last year for Feb Regency, I got out my Jane Austen songbook and was playing some of the music from the film adaptations, which was really just lovely. Admittedly, I did use a computer to type out some of this list, but lately I have been also using a Quill pen and ink. The fountain pen, like the metal stylus, had just been invented and wasn't really widely available, so most people would have been still using a quill and ink. I purchased them from a shop on Etsy called Art of the Brook or Art of the Book, and it was so fun to sit down and figure out how to use them. I don't think I've quite mastered the dipping of the ink and the avoiding of the blots and all of that, but I love the rhythm of writing with a quill pen and the shine of the ink as you write along the paper. Once you acquire your pen and ink, you could use them to write a handwritten note to a friend. Letter writing is, of course, the bonus challenge for our Feb Regency readathon this year, and our group read is Evelina, which is a novel that is told in a series of letters between the characters. Letter writing was such an important mode of communication in this time period, and it's so fascinating to look back at actual photographs of letters that we still have that were written during the Regency. To save paper and postage, letters were often crossed, so first it would be written kind of on one axis and then on the axis at a right angle, and managing to decipher letters like this must have been a special skill. I've also been reading up on the anatomy of Regency era letters, and so I'm trying to write one out here. Getting the folds just right and then sealing it with the wax is such a fun kind of geometrical challenge. I'll leave some of the vlogs below that I've been enjoying that have some interesting research about Regency era letters. I think that we have been chatting about Regency era items far too long without brewing ourselves up a cup of tea, so we need to stop and do that. Obviously, tea needs to be a part of our Regency era starter kit, although admittedly afternoon tea, the way we think of it today, is more of a Victorian invention. However, you hear about the characters in Regency era novels drinking tea, especially in the evening. I think they would often do it after dinner. They would have tea or coffee. I feel so bad for them because it must have been hard to get to sleep with the caffeine. There is something so elegant about having a lovely pot and cups and going through the ritual of the cream and the sugar and all the rest. My cousin and I visited this fun Jane Austen inspired tea company. All of their teas are inspired by Jane Austen's characters, and they really go deep into like the aspects of the personality and translating them to flavors, and the owners know a lot about tea and will say like, this is exactly the temperature you should brew it at. So I'm sure I'll be having some of my Jane Austen tea during Feb Regency. But if we go beyond just beverages, some Regency era recipes could be fun to add to your starter kit. Last year, our bonus challenge for Feb Regency was to cook a Regency era recipe, and I discovered this book called The Art of Cookery Made Plain and Easy, which far exceeds anything of the kind ever yet published by Hannah Glass. So this was actually published earlier in the 1700s, but it was a popular cookbook at the time and has lots of fun recipes. Last year I made syllabub, which is a delicious kind of whipped cream dessert with like wine and orange and citrus juice, and I also made some small cakes, which were lovely. This year, I discovered that there is a cookbook called Martha Lloyd's Household Book. And if you know Jane Austen, the name Martha Lloyd is very familiar to you. She was a very close friend of the Austens. She actually lived in the Austen household with Jane and her mother and her sister Cassandra. And I didn't know this until I was reading the introduction to the household book, but she actually married one of Jane's brothers after Jane's death, who became an admiral, Frank, her brother Frank. So I had to pick up this book when I found out it existed. This household book is written in Martha Lloyd's own handwriting, and many of the recipes are from the Austen family. Like, she would have cooked them while she was living with Jane. So I am just absolutely thrilled to have this, and definitely planning to cook up some of these recipes. There's one for a jam that wishes you good luck in your jamming. And it's inscribed cookery interest. So how fun that Jane Austen's household, there was a cookbook of the recipes they used. If you're looking for even more recipes, there's an ASMR channel I recently discovered that I kind of enjoy. It's called Early American. So it's not admittedly British Regency, but it is basically 1800s recipes and pastimes, and taking you back to that era in American life rather than British. But since it's the same time period, I feel like there could be some overlap. While we're on the subject of ASMR channels, if you're looking for some ambiance, there's a channel called Moonlight Cottage ASMR that has a couple Regency videos. They're like role play videos, and they're really charming. Her channel is very popular, and her videos are so cinematic. You know, it's not just ASMR, it's like a story, like a little movie. You could, of course, also put on a Jane Austen movie or a period drama in the background, just to add a little bit more Regency era fun. I recently watched Mr. Malcolm's List and really enjoyed it. I would definitely recommend that one. Just sweet and light. Definitely feels a bit like a love letter to Jane Austen type movies. Last but not least, I would love to hear your suggestions for a Regency era starter kit. What are some fun ways you love to channel the Jane Austen energy in your life? Here on BookTube, I saw that Faith from Faith in Books posted about her Feb Regency reading plans, and how she's also planning to have a musical evening with whist, which just sounds so delightful. Card games definitely would be excellent. Whist is mentioned in Austen's novels, so is speculation, lottery tickets, piquet, vingt, cribbage. I just now found out there's a book called Jane Austen's Card Games, which has instructions for the card games played, but I've already bought enough books because of the Regency. I'll have to save this one for the future. Another item I came across as I was going down the Jane Austen card games rabbit hole was a post on the Jane Austen House, the Chawton House Museum's webpage. They have some lottery fish in their collection, which Lydia Bennet mentions, the fishes she won and lost at lottery tickets. And apparently they used these little silver fishes as counters. The Martha Lloyd household book is also in the collection of the Jane Austen house. Anyway, I would love to hear any of your ideas down in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed today's quick journey to the Regency time period. If you haven't yet, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed. I'll be posting more videos about what I'm reading and doing throughout February for Feb Regency. And there's a whole playlist of videos from the readathon. I also have a full playlist of my Jane Austen videos that I've done here on my channel, so I'll make sure I leave those linked in the description and up above so you can give them a look. I wish you happy reading and a wonderful February. I'll talk to you again soon. Until then, stay bookish. Believe me to be your most faithful servant, Emma.